Football and Four is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You heard Jeffrey Lurie there in the open. That hunger for more. We're never satisfied. So what's next? They got SaquonBarkley. They got Zack Baun back in the fold. Andrew DiCecco from the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. And Andrew, obviously, I want to get your thoughts on the decision to bring back, extend Barkley. And obviously, a lot of people buzzing about this. 2-year extension for SaquonBarkley. People said, we had actually a lot of text messages of people saying, why? Why did you do this? Why didn't you see, he had 2,000 yards. Is he ever going to have more than 2,000 yards? Are you paying him for past performances? But what did you think of Philadelphia's decision to first target Barkley?
Hey, Mike, how you doing? It's one of those things where I think it sets the Eagles organization apart from so many in that they have proven that they're going to reward elite performance. He exceeded expectations. He ran his way into the history books. And obviously they just signed him to a 3-year, $37.5 million contract less than a year ago. But I think that they just rewarded players. And I don't think that there's any coincidence that the Eagles had that extension a week before free agency. It's really an indicator to prospective free agents. Hey, look, you sign with us. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take care of you if you take care of what you're supposed to do. So I just think that it really speaks to the Eagles organization and how they do things and why they've become a destination.
Yeah, so that's the first move. Obviously, they target Barkley, 2 more years for Barkley, so he's in the fold. Both of these guys got over $30 million at signing here. Give us your breakdown of Baun, this deal, and why he was so impactful to their defense that Howie Roseman did something he's not known to do, pay a linebacker.
Yeah, the money's great. I mean, I think I had him pegged anywhere from between 16 to 18 million. He 17 million. So that's right on par. He's being paid as the 4th most off-ball linebacker, 4th highest salary for an off-ball linebacker, which is probably right around where you expect a player who did it for 1 year. But he should have been, and he was the top of the Eagles' priority list. And the Eagles have tried for many years to find a competent linebacker, whether it's through the draft, whether it's trying to piece it together with veteran free agents, and they finally find one, and it kind of is in the unconventional way because he was obviously an edge rusher and a special teamer with the Saints, and it was the Eagles who identified VicFangio and Howie Roseman. They might have something there. VicFangio looking at him as an inside linebacker, so he's not quite a homegrown talent, but he's somebody that the Eagles have sort of molded into one of the game's preeminent linebackers in a year's time. And the defense isn't what it is without Zack Baun. He's not interchangeable. You pay, and the Eagles have proven that you pay for elite talent, for special players, and that's what they did, and they now have the centerpiece of the NFL's top defense coming back.
Andrew DiCecco's with us here, and, of course, you did a daily DiCecco over at Inside the Birds. What'd you see from Baun back at training camp that many of you guys, yourself included, figured, hey, this is the guy here that's opening eyes at training camp? Remember, people forget they signed Devin White this offseason. I forgot that he was even here, but it was Baun and Dean that ended up allowing the Eagles to move on from White.
Yeah, it became very evident in training camp, and I can even go back and look at some of my observations, but you see the instincts, his ability to read and react, to grasp VicFangio's system. So his football IQ really stood out, and it helped him stand apart from some of the other challengers there. And so you grasp the mental side, and that's fine. But then when he was on the field and put in those situations, he very much looked the part, and his movement it didn't look like an edge player. It looked like an inside linebacker, like an off-ball linebacker. And it became apparent that, the Eagles might have something here. Now, there's no one that could have forecasted the season that he had, but seeing him go out there, he looked like a competent player, and then you see it in the preseason, and then, of course, everything came to fruition week 1 when you see him all over the field, and then it put everything into focus. Yeah, the Eagles are on to something here, and I think a lot of it all started, the foundation, the groundwork was all in training camp, and he has a lot of these inherent characteristics, which is why I don't view it as a one-year phenomenon. He has certain traits and characteristics that the Eagles molded, and they were able to accentuate that, and that's why you saw him be as effective as he was.
Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4. Earlier in the week, they released both Darius Slay, James Bradbury. Bradbury, not a surprise. He missed all of last year. But what about Slay and what that room might look like now with Slay? Would you bring Slay back? Do they have enough ammunition in the room without Slay? Give us kind of an overview from the decision to let go of Slay. What could be next there with him here or gone? Him coming back or gone?
So that was expected, and so was the James Bradbury one. But that's not to say that the Slay absence isn't going to create a pretty seismic void, because not only from on the field, because I thought that he had a really stellar campaign, probably his best as an Eagle, but from the locker room perspective, he is so well liked. He's someone who I think when you see how the younger players really respond to him, they look up to him. He's very much revered, and he leads in a different way. He's jovial. He's always upbeat. He jokes around a lot, but he's more of a mentor. Like, I think that a lot of what you see in the interviews and what you see on the field, you don't get to see how he handles Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, who he calls both of those players his sons, and how much they look up to him and for advice, and how he helps the room with certain things. And I mean, I'm able to get these different perspectives from having talked to Slay himself, but also defensive back coaches that are in the room with him, like Roy Anderson, the cornerbacks coach, or Christian Parker, the defensive backs coach. And so all those things, you take it into account, and still, for some reason, despite him providing and being a pillar of stability on that boundary, and it's been a revolving door for the Eagles prior to his arrival, he still doesn't seem to get the amount of respect that I expected a player of his caliber to get. It still seems like there's not a lot of love for Slay for whatever reason. But I mean, he's one of the best corners to ever wear an Eagles uniform. Both he and his wife have done a tremendous job in the community here in the city of Philadelphia, and he is a really good teammate and very well liked and beloved amongst his teammates. And that's going to be somebody that's not going to be easy to replace.
Now, are you writing off the possibility of him coming back here?
Yeah, this time feels a little bit different than the first time around. It seems like they have young pieces in place that they're comfortable moving forward with. They also have the possibility of re-signing Isaiah Rodgers, which before the Slay thing even happened, I put a story out on InsideTheBirds.com Monday morning that Isaiah Rodgers should have been a priority. And I think that he gives you an outside possibility. So does Keely Ringo. And so eventually it's time to get those startup costs out of the way. And I think, depending on what you do with Cooper DeJean, they may well leave him inside because he's so exceptional there. He's already one of the best players in the NFL in that role, that if you have a Rodgers or a Ringo, again, for the second consecutive summer, trading off, working with the first team, I think that there's a lot worse circumstances that the Eagles could find themselves in. Just feels like they're ready to move into the youth movement.
Let me get your take, Andrew, on what you would do with Cooper DeJean. Are you keeping him as a slot? This is going to be interesting because obviously you make more money as an outside guy. He's not up for a contract situation yet, but his agent might say, hey, I want my guy playing outside, corner. I don't want him in the slot. But what's the move here? Is he, in your mind, better suited to play outside corner or keep him as the nickel?
Well, the Eagles drafted him, scouted him, and still view him as an outside corner, but he's so exceptional at what he does playing inside that it takes a special kind of athlete. He has the length, he has the football IQ, the short area quickness, his ability to read and react, make tackles in the open field. He's kind of, let's not lose sight of the fact that playing nickel, at least in my estimation, is probably the most challenging position on the defensive side of the ball to play. And he's mastered it as a rookie. It's a starting position in today's NFL, and you're seeing number one receiver, you're seeing outside receivers, shorter receivers that are inside. So you have to face the whole gamut, and you also have to be responsible for what all three levels of the defense are doing. You have to be mindful of being active in run fits. So there's a lot of responsibility that's placed on the shoulders of that position. And so I think he is wired to do that. And the Eagles also have a player in Keely Ringo who is still younger than Quinyon Mitchell. He has the ability to play on the outside. He has the length and the physicality and the play strength. And they also have Isaiah Rodgers as a potential fallback option as well. So I think that they probably should, and maybe right now for the time being, we'll keep him there at the nickel spot.
Talking with Andrew DiCecco for Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. Becton, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat. As we get closer to Monday now, Andrew, this will be the last time we talk to you. Those guys might have new addresses by the time you're back. Give us your crystal ball for those three guys.
I think Milton Williams is gone. I think he's going to get a sizable payday. Josh Sweat the same way, and that's not a player that I would expect the Eagles to invest in anyway, even as the season was winding down. Just didn't seem like a move that they were going to make, just because he was a player that he's not a dominant player. He's an effective player, and he would be having to be paid as if he was going to be the front of that pass rush group, and he's just not that kind of player. He disappears for periods of time. And then for Mekhi Becton, I think he's going to test out the market. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that view him as a guard, maybe a couple that view him as a tackle. I think that year in Philadelphia, he was able to kind of shake that stigma of the New York Jets. He'd experienced a winning culture. He got coached by the best offensive line coach in football, and he probably has a new perspective that I think is going to endear himself to prospective suitors out there. And so because of all that, I think that he's probably gone as well.
All right, there you go. Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4. A quick little breakdown on everything happening with the Eagles on a busy week for Howie Roseman. We'll see what he pulls out of his sleeve starting Monday when the free agent season opens. And, of course, the NFL Draft 49 days away. We'll be talking to Andrew about that right here on Football at 4. Thank you, man.
Thank you.